Okay. You're most welcome once more to today's session. Of course, it's part of some of the sessions we have always been having. Of course, this is the IFED Technologies bootcamp program. We always have calls. That's basically 3 times a week. However, this week we are going to have 4 calls. One of the reasons is that there is a day when we missed. We are not in position to, to have calls and like last Friday. So yesterday we did a cover up, and today we are going to be looking at the activity which was supposed to have covered yesterday. So it is basically a cover up of what we were supposed to look at yesterday. And basically yesterday we were supposed to look at adding images in HTML, adding videos, adding audios, and also creating tables. However, we never got time to be in position to create tables. So we had to push the call today so that we're in position to create tables. So we are going to write a code similar to this. Basically, this is a sample code of what we're supposed to look at yesterday. And of course, we wrote, if I'm supposed to run this, it has some bit of CSS. However, we shall be looking at CSS next time. If I'm supposed to run this, if I run this, let's try to run, we see the output. So when I run this, I'll be in position to, I don't know why it's taking slow. So I'll be in position to view. So this is actually the whole of yesterday's lesson. However, we are just going to pick today a smaller bit of it. That's basically creating tables. Like I said, we are going to start CSS next week. However, I brought some small CSS to this table so that the table can be in position to look. We can be in position to do what? Let's see the table opening. So this is some line of the code of what we wrote yesterday. And the table we are looking at is around here. If you can see down here. If you can see down here. So this is basically what we are looking at. As part of the class which was supposed to take place yesterday, we were not able to finish up to here. So today, basically, we're going to look at how we can come with something like this together in this call. Then I'd also given some of us activities, some activity earlier on. And, we also saw on the other WhatsApp platforms, some people are going to new platforms and what so forth. So basically, for people who are completely new, don't get worried. You'll obviously catch up. We have recordings of everything. Now, without wasting time, let's go to writing our code. Okay, which one is this? This is something else. Okay, this is our class yesterday. Let me create a new file. So of course we are using the IDE we are using is called Visual Studio Code. Is one of the best text editor which is there, but there's also Sublime Text Editor and others which you can install. But I prefer using Visual Studio. But for learning purposes, a Notepad, which is always default in the PC, and Sublime Editor, they are very good because they don't have some extensions for auto completion. Yes, Sublime has, you have to install. However, with VS Code, sometimes it comes automatic. Of course, it increases your speed and efficiency in programming. Okay, now I'm going to create a new file. Of course, I'm creating a new HTML file. I'm going to save. In order for me to be in position to do what? To be backing my work, I'm saving simply by clicking Control A. Now, I already have a workspace which had opened. I believe if you're in the class yesterday, you should be in position to have already a folder on your local PC. Now I'll check my profile where there is bootcamp what? Resources. So I'm going to go to projects. Then I'm going to name my project. Now, which name am I going to give it? Let me give it just creating tables, because we are looking at creating tables. Now, which file type is it? For this case, we are looking at HTML. So I'll look for HTML because there are very many languages. I'm seeing C#, C++. There is CSS here, which we are looking at next week. Then mine is HTML. There is Java, JavaScript, whatever. So I'm going to select file type as HTML. Then I'm going to save. I've just simply saved it as creating tables so that I can easily Remember it. Now I'm going to write my basic HTML syntax. For this case, the doc type, let me write a basic HTML syntax, or let me just copy. I think we know this, isn't it? Let me just copy. Let me copy from this activity. Let me just copy the whole of this syntax instead of writing afresh. In case you don't know, please don't worry. The previous videos, or we can have time together with you to work on that. So I'm going to remove what is in the body, because remember, these are things for the class of yesterday, where we added audios, images, and what so forth. So I'm going to remove this body off. Now, if I remove it here, I have my structure. Of course, this heading I'm also removing, or creating tables and inserting multimedia. Let me just remove this side. So we have here creating table. If I would explain again brief, this doc type tag explains the type of the HTML we're working with. We're working with HTML5. This HTML tag is showing the root folder. Whatever you're working on is the HTML. This head is the section whereby there are metadatas which are comprised in your HTML. For example, the title, for this case, we are looking at creating tables as the title of our web. We have the body. Now, body is where all the components of the website you're trying to build will be. Now, what are we trying to create? We are creating a table. Now, we are going to start with obviously H1 tag. H1 tag, if you don't have any idea about it, please don't worry. In the previous videos or in the discussion group, you can be able to go ahead and ask questions about that. So basically, those are different levels of titles or headings in HTML. So now we are going to look at here. Let's say creating tables just. Let's still name it creating my first tables in HTML. Creating my first tables in HTML. So if we save this and we run, when we open it in a browser, so for this case, I'm using Chrome. When we open, we can be able to see. So you can see here, it's showing that what? Creating my first table in HTML. Now, so we are coming back to our code. We have written that. Now, still we shall come back to our body here. Of course, we have already written the heading for what our table we want to create. Now, for us to create a table, we have to use the table tag. So I'm going to say table. When I click on table, because I close the tag with HTML, with the VS Code, it auto completes for me the code. Now there I've opened, I want to create tables. Now we have what we call other small tags like the T head. I'm going to explain those ones later in details. We have the T head, which gives you the upper row or the headings of the table or the columns and what so forth. Then we have the TH tag. Let's say our heading is maybe we are creating about our course. Okay. The problem I've not done another. I will have drawn for your table in Microsoft Word better, but it's okay. We can still use this and create it in HTML straight. So let's say our first column will be modules. Modules as TH. So we want modules to be our first column. So I'm going to copy this. I don't want to be typing TH time and again. I'm going to copy this. I'll paste. We want the table to have like 3 rows. Okay. So modules, maybe these are course units. Then I'll be like topics covered. Topics covered under this module. Then the instructor. Let me try opening a Word doc. Try to demonstrate this as the Word doc opens. So basically, when you see a table, you find there is a section where they have written the module, the topics covered under a module, and the instructor. So we have interacted with tables several times in sheets and what so forth. So for example, you can say module, maybe you're looking at introduction to HTML. Under introduction to HTML, maybe you're looking at basic syntax, forms, tables, and whatsoever. So basically, that's the picture of what I'm trying to create. Now, if I've written this, let me save. Let me see what happens onto my browser now. So I'll come back here to my browser. I'll just refresh. So we can see here. We can see I've created modules. I don't know whether we are seeing, or let me zoom it in. Let me zoom it out. So here we can see I've created modules, topics covered, and the name of the instructor. So I've already created that. I've created a table, but now you're not able to see the borders and other things. That is now where CSS will come. However, I don't want to take us to CSS today, but I'll just put a CSS to demonstrate actually what would happen. And of course, then we shall go back to the rest. So we have finished our heading. We have used the TH tag. Now we are going to come to the body or the content, which is now HTML. So we are going to say T body. Remember, for the heading, we used T. T head. Now we are going to use T body. Now we are coming to the contents, which are in our tables. Okay. Let us say under modules, we want to say, let's add TD to put data into the table. Let me say under modules, we are looking at introduction to HTML. Okay, we're looking at introduction to HTML. Good. Now, if you're looking at introduction to HTML, this is the name of the module in this case. Let's put another TD. Now, under topics covered, which topics are we going to cover in the introduction of HTML? Now you have to identify the topics you're going to cover. Let me look at HTML basics. HTML basics. Let me say semantic tags. Let me look at forms and tables. So these are topics which are going to be covered under HTML basics. Who is going to be the instructor now? The person teaching. Okay, let me write myself. Aikoboa Ferdinand. Okay, that's my name anyway. Aikoboa Ferdinand. Okay, I'm the instructor. Let me save. Let's see what happened on our browser. Okay, let me refresh my browser. So you can see the module is introduction to HTML. The topics covered is, let me zoom in a bit. So the heading is introduction to HTML. Topics covered is HTML basics, semantics, forms, and tags. Remember, but still this table is what? Crowded. There are no features of CSS and other stuff. Now, let's go to another row. Let me add one more row. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm still adding another body. So I'll just copy these codes. Then I click enter. I paste. I change my contents. Okay. Let me change my contents. CSS, fundamentals. Basically, those are the basics. So under fundamentals, we are going to look at CSS selectors. Maybe let's look at box module. Because these are some of the topics we shall be looking at from next week in CSS. Let me look at layouts. Okay, I think those are enough. Those are the topics you're covering there. Okay. Then who is the instructor? Okay, fine. Let me leave Ferdinand as well. Let me also look at JavaScript. Again, I'll copy this. Remember, I'm adding more column. Okay, let me first save and we see what happens on the browser. You see, we have added another one. Let's add one more for JavaScript. Of course, you'll just copy. For example, now let's give an example like you wanted to do a lot of things. You can copy the whole of this thread as well, but however, we are just adding one more space. So I'll paste, I'll look at JavaScript, okay? Introduction to JavaScript. Introduction to JavaScript. Okay. What am I covering? Let me look at variables and functions. Under JavaScript, I'll look at variables and functions. Because there are other things like event handling, DOM manipulation, and what so forth. Just for the case of learning, let's just stop here and you see what happens. So yeah, we can see there. I've finished creating my table. Now, creating a table in HTML is just as simple as basically this. However, we don't have, we cannot know where is the table ending, where is the table doing this. So I'm just going to add in a CSS. Like I said, I will not explain CSS today. We shall start CSS as CSS. Let me just see. Let me just copy this. Let me copy this CSS because I don't want to start confusing us to explain that for longer, since we shall be having it next week. So let me just, okay, the CSS I'm trying to put in is what we call inline CSS. There is external CSS and inline CSS. So when I'm talking about inline CSS, I mean the CSS which you bring into your HTML document. And then when we talk about external CSS, is where we link. We write CSS on its own, like the way we are writing this HTML, and then we link it to our HTML document. So when you are linking, you come here, those are called metadatas. You come to the head section, then you type style, blah, blah. So I want to bring to that later. What I'm doing now is just pasting. So I'm going to paste. You can see style. I've started with table 1. The border should collapse. So that explanation will come next week when you're looking at that. But now the code from here, what you're seeing from here to here, this is CSS. This is not part of HTML. However, it adds structure to a web page. Now, let me first save, and I make us view a doc which does not have, remember this output does not have CSS already. However, when I refresh, I've now added CSS. You will find that there is change. There are borders and what so forth. Of course, we shall look at that later during the time when we start looking at CSS. So I'm going to refresh. So when I refresh, you can now see that basically modules, they are in their own table. They're in their own table. I made some faint, whatever, background and what so forth. Of course, I can interact with these colors. If I want to change them, I can change. Like there is this color, which has whiter composition. I can change if I want. I can manipulate, you know. I can do whatever I feel like with these colors. I can make this to any. So about how the colors are, we shall also look at them in depth if you're looking at this. So I've done some small interaction with the colors. Let's see what happens to our table when we refresh. See, either the colors are changing and what so forth. So we shall look at basically this, the CSS into depth next time. So with this view, I don't know if we have maybe any more questions to ask. Otherwise, I will say we end our call for today here. But in case you have any question, you can go ahead and ask. And please feel free to ask any question. I have been migrating people to a new WhatsApp platform simply because some people joined the other group and they don't submit work either. So it doesn't add value, like it doesn't make any sense if you join a group and you're not doing assignments. So why are you in the group? So we decided to evacuate serious people away from other people who are maybe just trying to joke around. So please, if you have a question before we end the call, go ahead.
Okay, as usual, me, I cannot fail to ask. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just expected to see these column borders, the inline borders, okay, like the crossing borders, but the lines, but it's like using the other CSS code. I've just seen it's like the other borders in Excel, whereby you find like the formats, whatever. So I expected like if you are create like a table in Word, whereby you have the vertical and the horizontal ones.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Okay.
the old borders, that's what I expected to see.
For me, I decided to use the faint table. I decided to make the table which is faint. You wanted the table where all the borders are appearing, eh?
Yes.
Oh, sure. There's no problem. Of course, we are going to dwell on that. The reason as to why, like I said, I don't want to mix CSS with HTML, eh? Because with CSS is wide and it can confuse easily. So the reason as to why I decided to just make HTML pure HTML and bring a slight CSS is just to show what can happen to the table and how we can differentiate this table and that. But of course, we are going to look at that by next week when you have started CSS, because I want us to finalize HTML this week. Next week, we start CSS, whereby we shall be in position to do a lot of things. By the time we go to JavaScript, this is why I didn't mix the two. I wanted people to learn the structure very well. They learn designing, so that by the time we're going to JS, you know how complex at times JavaScript is. So I wanted people to read JavaScript when they are very comfortable with this thing, with HTML and the CSS. Of course, from next week, when they are adding CSS to their designs, because you know how CSS can make, you may assume you have already made a web, like if you're really creative. So don't mind about that. We shall look at any other thing or any other question you have, like we are going to sort it out. Anything regarding CSS, let's leave it for next week.
It's okay.
Otherwise, if you're on the other platform, please make sure you have done the other assignment. There's an assignment there which is there. At least you do it to keep on practicing and what so forth. Then as well as this table, and try it. I'm going to add some comprehensive assignment to this before we start semantic HTML, because I think that is what we're supposed to do tomorrow. We're supposed to look at it, where we are bringing div elements and what so forth. So, and even looking at forms.
I will submit mine tomorrow.
Okay, fine. Then the best of your evening. Bright, do you have any question before I close?
No, I think I don't have any question. Meet tomorrow.
Okay, fine. See you tomorrow. So tomorrow at the same time, we shall link up.
Okay.